May 2024, we've got your essay titles. They leaked. I got them. Your teacher doesn't have them. I got them here. Let's get an A in TOK.
Get an A in TOK.
Okay, first of all, I've got my copy here. I'm cutting this video so quickly just so I can get you guys getting started on this. I want to tell you about a couple things. First of all, get an A in TOK.com/free stuff. I've got organizers, examples, lots of stuff to help you out. Secondly, this guy with the coffee, up way too late. I can grade your paper, I can tutor you, we can Zoom. Get a hold of me on Fiverr, the link's in the description, fiverr.com/PatFreakinJones. I will grade your essay. Finally, TOK Masterclass is an on-demand, fully immersive TOK course, the full course with all of my notes, all of my research, I give them to you. You can get that at a discount. Go to tokmasterclass.com. You can use the code YouTube subscriber. You should subscribe. I don't care if you subscribe. You can use that code YouTube subscriber and save 25%. All right, let's take a look at these titles. Okay, the first one is subjectivity, overly celebrated in the arts, but unfairly condemned in history, discussed with reference to the arts and history. This is something that they've been doing recently, prescribing both of the AOKs that you have to do. I've got my notes right in front of me. I'm so excited for this. This one's super cool. So the first thing that I want to bring up is something that might seem kind of nitpicky, but this is really important. There is a difference between celebrated and overly celebrated. There's a difference between condemned and unfairly condemned. So a top score will differentiate this and will not just say, yeah, it's condemned. No, that's not what it's asking. So something could be celebrated and it's worth it. Something could be condemned for a good reason. So make sure you're looking at exactly what you need to be looking at. Something that I wouldn't do, and a lot of people do this, I think because teachers require this, is don't spend time defining the word celebrated. Don't waste your time defining condemned. This is clear, it's obvious. You're in grade 12, no one knows. Can you define celebrate? No, you got this. But make sure that you are talking about things that are overly celebrated, like I said, and unfairly condemned. So I can see people, I know you're gonna send them to me on Fiverr, writing introductions about that nobody wants to read. To be celebrated means that you are extolled by the, no, just don't. Use your words carefully and be careful with what you do, okay? Use your words like a strategic resource in a video game. It's like your word count is like your mana, okay? Use it to get the best possible score. Now, also related to your introductions, because a lot of people just screw it up there, mediocre essays are going to spend time defining subjectivity. Now, subjectivity is totally the most important word in this title, but we know what subjectivity is, and it can look different in each AOK, and that's really what it's talking about, but don't waste time defining another obvious term. So this week, what I'm going to be doing is uploading one video about each title. So I'm not going to give specific pieces of research to go here. That's going to be my next video. But what I want to do is remember that arts and history are two of the AOKs that very average students talk about. And history, they screwed up a bunch. So this is going to be a really popular title. This one, and I think number 3, are going to be the most popular. So if you choose this, what I want you to do is differentiate yourself. Do not talk about the following. I'll look at my notes here. Don't talk about Jackson Pollock, Pablo Picasso, Salvador Dali, Nazis. Just never talk about Nazis. I do not see them becoming, I love Nazi jokes. Don't talk about Donald Trump. Don't talk about COVID. Don't talk about vaccines. Wait, we can't talk about vaccines. And don't talk about anything with World War II, okay? All history and arts have examples that can get the job done. But if you're watching this, you're trying to get a good score. So don't pick the stuff that everybody's going to do. And that's these topics that are just used all of the time. So explore some art and look for new examples. Watch my other videos and I'll help you out with that. So another thing about title number 1 is this is a yes and no title. Every paragraph that you write should have a perspective that is either demonstrating yes, it is, or no, it is not. And then in your conclusion, you should come up with a final answer. I agree with this title or I do not. It can be different for each AOK, and that's okay. But the best answers are going to come up with 2 things. First of all, yes or no, and it's going to be all encompassing. And then what can we learn about the nature of subjectivity? Basically, what is the significant lesson that we learn about subjectivity because of this title and the answer that you discover? A lot of terrible essays waste time in their conclusion, just summarizing the points. It's a waste. Don't do it. So we think that subjectivity may be bad. This prompt is trying to get us to reconsider that. So go ahead. What do we learn about subjectivity from what you have researched. Now, really closely related to this is one of the things that the IB teaches examiners is that there is a good word and a bad word. The good word is critical. The bad word is descriptive. So don't write a descriptive essay talking about when people are subjective. Instead, be critically thinking about what it means to be subjective, when it's good and when it's bad, and what that means. Let's move on to number 2. How can we reconcile? Oh, this one's weird. How can we reconcile the opposing demands for specialization and generalization in the production of knowledge? Production, so remember, only production, discussed with reference to maths and one other area of knowledge. So this one's super wordy, and the key here is that it's a how title. So each paragraph should offer a single way, be clear, that we can reconcile the differences between of specialization. Reconcile the demands. See, I'm already getting it messed up. That we can reconcile the demands of specialization and generalization. Here's one thing I want to say. If you don't immediately understand this title, I'd skip it. I'm going to put chapters in this YouTube video. Just skip to the next one. If you don't like this one, it's okay. It's not going to hurt my ratings. If you're intrigued, let's read about it. Okay, so similar to what I said for number 1, don't turn this into a report about when someone was specialized and when someone was generalized. You might want to do that and feel like you're on topic. That has nothing to do with what the title is asking. So the main point of this title is asking how we fit in the middle. I'd also talk about why we got in the middle and whether or not that was a good thing. So it's saying there is this demand to be on one of these, and why is that the case? So one of the things this title assumes is that there are demands for specialization and generalization. So as you do this research, who is making the demand for both of these and why? As this is focused on math, here are my initial and early thoughts. I'm going to need to research this a little bit because nothing comes to the top of my head here, which is pretty rare. So I'm going to get some examples down later this week. But there's a differentiation. I'm going to kind of give you some how I think about this between applied math and theoretical maths. Basically, math that can do something in the real world is applied maths. Now, something that is just an exercise that we put on paper or like a challenge or, one of those big math millennium goals, those are theoretical math. So these could be connected to specialization and generalization. If you specialize in one of these, which mathematicians do, is that okay? Is it harmful? Is it necessary? Is it practical? Then most importantly, how do we reconcile that mathematicians specialize in one specific thing? The fact that most mathematicians do this and they're not generalists, that's what is bringing up this prompt. So the nice thing about this is that this is your analysis, the how do we reconcile. So I don't think that you're going to find a person directly giving you an answer for this. You're going to have to do your thinking on your own for this. So instead, after you find the examples of people being general, after you find examples of people being specialized, your analysis is answering that how. That's actually on Fiverr. If you send me your paper, one of the biggest things I say to people in providing feedback, and I'll give you so much feedback, I'll break your heart probably. One of the things I say is you need to not be focusing on the what, you need to be focusing on the how. This title asks you the how, and so it's prompting you to go in that direction that is critical, that is analytical. And that's the conclusion that you'll draw at the end of every single paragraph. Now, what I really do here is find examples of people being demanded to be specialized in general in each AOK, because I think that the title is really interesting in that. And then most importantly, you discuss in length how we reconcile those demands. So it's not just a person who was specialized, but there was the demand for it to be specialized. I think there's a little bit of nuance there. Number 3, the easiest TOK title, at least I've ever seen. If you choose this, you just need to pour one out for last year's graduates. Like, this is so easy. Number 3, nothing is more exciting than fresh ideas. So why are areas of knowledge often so slow to adopt them? Discuss with reference to the human sciences and one other area of knowledge. This is so easy. Really, it's the easiest of all time. And so when things are super easy, everybody chooses them. And a lot of slackers are going to choose this and use the same examples over and over again. So I'm just going to say, avoid COVID, avoid vaccines, just stop, avoid Donald Trump. And if you want to do politics, choose politics from your own country. If you are from Asia, which 90% of you are, stop talking about American politics. You don't understand it, okay? Yeah, so I gotta get up on pedestal there, but I'm just tired of people not having any idea what they're writing about. You're not gonna score well. So every single AOK, especially natural sciences, is filled with times in which the AOKs slowly adopt fresh ideas. You can probably come up with a bunch of these off the top of your head. So basically what you wanna do is bring up a fresh idea and then talk about why it was slowly adopted. That's ridiculously easy. So you need a specific reason after that. So don't just say this was slowly adopted. You need to identify the issue that caused it to be slowly adopted. So it could be bias. It could be sexist. It could be it challenged the paradigm. It challenged. Oh, you know what? Also, stop with the whole. It challenged the Catholic Church thing. Everybody does that. You're not original. One great example was Einstein brought up stuff that nobody understood. I love that. It was not available in other countries. It was not available in other languages. So I identify, isolate, boil the issue down, not to people didn't adopt it, but why they didn't adopt it. There are so many things that could work here. But if you're going to choose this topic, just know that your examiner is going to read more of this than any other title, maybe even any other title, all the other titles combined. So as they get to yours, you want to choose examples that are different from everybody else's. So in my Title 3 video, and if it's out, and I'm going to produce them all this week, the link will be in the description. You can also go to getanandtok.com. I'm going to put these notes in there. I'm going to give you some examples of what could work. But what I want you to think about when I give you those examples is if you're really shooting for an A, take those examples and then think about how they work and then come up with your own that are similar to mine. I was talking, and here's why. I was talking with a TOK tutor and he was telling me that he was grading all of these papers that all had the same evidence and he couldn't figure out why till he saw my channel. And so most people just steal directly from my channel. That's not what I'm wanting you to do. If you are watching this and your TOK essays due in a week, yeah, steal my ideas. But use my channel here as a way to get started, okay? I've got some really great videos on organization. Check those out as well. Go to getanandtok.com/free stuff. That will really help you out more than stealing my ideas. So the challenge with this one is actually not the analysis. The challenge is finding really great research that's really going to stand out. But if you really want to slack off in TOK and just get a C, you can knock this one out so fast, it's not even funny. So there are two things here that will really differentiate you. Let me give you the first one. The first one is that if you choose this, I would differentiate yourself by having a body paragraph that is explicitly comparison. Instead of 2 body paragraphs for every AOK, which literally 99% of IB students do, return to each idea and compare them. So you'd have perspective A, perspective B, and then a comparison paragraph. Most people don't do this. Some people who watch this channel do this, but most people don't. So that will really help you stand out. So when your examiner sees the essay, they won't go, oh, it's 6 paragraphs. They'll go, oh, it's 8. I wonder what's going on here. And then their expectations are going to go up one notch. Secondly, I always suggest this, but for the easiest title ever, I would suggest a 250 word conclusion. Go in depth on your lessons and your takeaways here. Think about the conclusions as you are telling me why humans, why people, why learners, why experts rarely accept new ideas. What does that say about knowledge? What does that say about us? This has been going on forever. So why? After you give 4 or 6 examples, what is the main reason behind all of this? A solid conclusion will be better than most. So because this is the most common one, it's really going to be filled with garbage summary conclusions. So make sure you don't fall into that trap. Number 4, do we underestimate the challenges of taking knowledge out of its original context and transferring it to a different context? Discuss with reference to 2 areas of knowledge. So this is another really easy one to organize. You'll just find times when people do, and then you'll find times when people don't. So interestingly, the title basically requires you to say yes in order to explore it. Yes, it happens, but you're also going to want to find times when people didn't underestimate it and then discuss the effects and the significance, the implications of what happened. So a lot of bad essays on this title are going to just say, here are the challenges of taking knowledge out of its original context, and then they're just going to go from there. And here's an example, that's not what you want to do. So to find examples, first of all, watch my video that I'm going to post in a few days because I'm just breaking down the prompts for this. I'm going to give specific examples in my next video, also on my website, getana in TOK.com. And I'll have links to all these in the descriptions. But secondly, what you're going to want to find is times when people underestimated the challenges when taking the knowledge out of its original context. So, and I'll get to this in a minute, there's two different ways that we can look at, but the people who are producing the knowledge, did they underestimate the challenges? I'm not gonna lie, it's going to be pretty hard, because this is going to be saying that the people who took the knowledge, the people who created it, the scientists, the mathematicians, the artists, they underestimated it. So you're going to need to understand the method, the attitude, and like the beginnings of that knowledge creation, and that's weird. So what I might do here is interpret the word we as you and me, the people who are consuming, using, activating that knowledge in the different contexts. So I don't want to try and analyze whether or not the knowledge producer underestimated the challenges. So I would talk about me as I read this. Am I underestimating the challenges? You see the difference there? That's how I would do that. And what you can do is you can talk about this in your introduction. Here's how I'm interpreting this text. So one of the things I talk about in TOK Masterclass, and by the way, if you use the code YouTube subscriber, at tokmasterclass.com, you get 25% off. That's awesome. So virtually everybody uses that. So go ahead and check it out. And I give all of this evidence, all of this research away. But one of the things that I talk about is I'm learning in the human sciences about different cultures. So when we study an Aboriginal culture, for example, what are we actually learning about? Are we learning about Aboriginal cultures only? Are we learning about humans? Are we learning about something in between? So is it really specific, or is it really broad? So if we gain knowledge in the context of an immersive anthropological study, such as something by Margaret Mead, and we apply that to a different context, such as you and me, is that something that works? So this entire thing is half of what the title is asking. So you have the research, and now we have to think about whether we underestimate the challenges that arise, okay? So as we gain this knowledge about Aborigines, and I say, oh, we learned this about people. Is that true about me? Am I underestimating how much the knowledge actually applies there? That's what we have to do. So what you want to do then is identify the challenge and then figure out whether or not it's underestimated. So what you can do here is think about things that you've learned in school. If the context in which that knowledge was produced is different than the context in which you are using the knowledge, and it most likely is, are you underestimating how you use that knowledge? That is so complex. To be honest, I would not choose this title. There are so many things that I would be afraid that I would get wrong. I'm going to give you some examples, though, in my Title 4 video. Let's move on. All right, this one's really interesting. Do we need custodians of knowledge? Discuss with reference to two areas of knowledge. So many times I tell students not to worry about defining things in the title. I've already done that like twice so far. But then we get this title. So I'm going to drink some Tim Hortons to... That's really hot. Yeah, drink to this, because you're going to have to define what a knowledge custodian is, okay? So I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be totally honest here. Teachers, we tend to think we have to know everything. I had no idea what a knowledge custodian was, okay? And this is like the #1 TOK YouTube channel. So I had no idea. So I know you have no idea. Maybe your teacher has an idea. Maybe whatever they teach, they talk about this, but this is not in the TOK course guide. This is just something that people have been bringing up lately. I got a paper for you. I'm going to put in the description of this, but you'll clearly want to tell me in 2 sentences, what is a knowledge custodian? So in the introduction, what I would do is this. Open up by describing in a story, in 3 sentences, a time in which you were a knowledge custodian. Then talk about, in 2 sentences, what a knowledge custodian is. And then get to your thesis. Do we need them or not, and why? So the organization with this is super easy. So yes, we need them. Sometimes we need them. And no, we don't need them. So in speaking about organization, again, getanaintok.com/free stuff. I've got organizers there for you. It'll really help you out. But as you do that, remember, most people are going to go yes, no, yes, no. So change it up a bit by offering a time when you can say sometimes they're necessary, or when this happens, they're necessary, but that may not be all the case. So find some nuance in the perspectives that you bring up. Okay, so now let's talk about what the heck is a knowledge custodian. I had to learn this today to prepare for the video, so I'm going to give you two things here that are pretty easy, but you're going to want to come up with a couple things. So if I'm going to put a dictionary definition up here. So if you look at the second definition of custodian, it kind of makes sense. A guardian or a keeper, such as an art collection. So do we need people who guard or keep knowledge? Basically for us non-knowledge producers, us non-experts, us non-scientists, us non-historians, us non-artists. Do we need people who will take care of the knowledge and help us with it? I really think it's like, do we need experts? I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So there's an article that I think might have coined this phrase. I don't know, but I'm going to post it down in the description. It's in a journal called Science, great name, in 1968 that talks about needing custodians because there is so much information. So if they were writing about a knowledge explosion in the 60s, just think about how much knowledge we have now. So for example, if we are given literally a billion pieces of information, a knowledge custodian would help us sift through that. A knowledge custodian would say, this knowledge is important, this knowledge is not. This knowledge is invalid, or this isn't knowledge, and this is. So I would use that article. It's a really good resource. Don't just take a few sentences, read a couple pages so that you can really understand it. But basically, I think you want to be really specific very early on about what a knowledge custodian is, and then use that definition every time you bring it up in the body paragraph. So when you write an essay at this level in education, by this level, I mean grade 12 and then moving on to higher ed, you have some freedom to define the terms of the essay, to define the parameters. So when you create the definition, when you say a knowledge custodian is this, then it's your job to find evidence that connects with that definition. So don't do any research. Do not start this title until you have a strong understanding of the term. Then only choose examples that work with your definition. If your friend has a different definition than you, that's fine, unless yours is like totally crap, then it's not fine. But come up with a definition, read the resource that I'm going to give you, bounce it off your teacher, hire me as a tutor, I'll help you out. You can also go to toktutoring.com. That's my other site, but it just takes you to my other one. And I can help you out with that. So I'm going to have more examples in my Title V video. That link will be in the description. But this is a really pertinent title for a couple of reasons. So first of all, our world has become really skeptical of experts. And you could definitely argue that A-OK experts in their fields are naturally the custodians of knowledge. So a lot of resources that came up about knowledge custodians dealt with hip hop for some reason when I was trying to figure out what the heck this is. So when you create or participate in an art form, do you also guard the knowledge of that art form? Or do you just create art and it's up to everybody to just possess and use and own that knowledge? This reminds me of a TOK exhibition title that was talking about like who owns knowledge or who does knowledge belong to. This is basically asking the same thing. So when you're a scientist, you are also in charge of making sure that knowledge is guarded, protected, and supported, right? Or not? I'm not really sure because science is always changing. And so a knowledge custodian in the natural sciences, if they're guarding and if they're keeping knowledge, they could also protect an invalid paradigm. So if they keep on saying, no, this is wrong, no, this is wrong, because yes, this is right, that might prohibit scientific development. It might protect some things from extinction and irrelevance when that should or shouldn't happen. So that's Title V. That's a really interesting one. Not my favorite, but it's a pretty good one. Number 6, are we too quick to assume that the most recent evidence is inevitably the strongest? Discussed with reference to the natural sciences and one other areas of knowledge. This is a really interesting one because I don't like that it basically asks you to make a generalization. Are we? You're being asked to generalize about all humanity. So that's something that really low-level essays do. They just tend to say, all humans are like this, and it's terrible. So the way that I interpret it is all humanity. So you're allowed to find as many examples of assuming that recent evidence is the strongest. And this is, of course, called recency bias. So you'll, of course, want to organize around yes, we are too quick, and no, we aren't too quick. And examples of this are going to be so easy to define. But please don't talk about vaccines. Don't talk about vaccines. Don't talk about vaccines. It's so dead. So what I suggest you do is focus more on the effects and the implications of a person and or group acting too quickly or not. So I said don't talk about vaccines, so what am I going to do? I'm going to give you an example of how my thinking would work with vaccines, so you won't steal my answer because I'm already telling you using vaccines is a great way to sound stupid. So Andrew Wakefield, the idiot scientist who said that vaccines are linked with autism, he came out with a study to say that that there's a link between autism and vaccines. So a lot of people jump to his claims, stop vaccinating their kids because of the recent evidence. Hey, you want to know a joke? What never gets old? Dark humor and unvaccinated children. Get it? Okay, so sorry. So people look at this new evidence and they say, okay, we're not going to get vaccinated. Were they too quick? Yes, because Andrew Wakefield's study lied. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the details of it, but that's a really quick summary of people. Let me go back to the title here. People assuming that recent evidence is strong. So they say, oh, look at this new study. No one's ever known this before. So that's not the analysis. That is just the event that's describing what happened. So what you want to talk about is go into the effects about why and what happens when we assume that this knowledge is strongest. What did they do? One thing is they ignored the majority of the scientific community. So when we look at new evidence being the strongest, that new is going to be in the minority. We might be ignoring precedent. We might be ignoring history. We might be ignoring the majority. We might be ignoring stronger evidence, which was the case. So the evidence that will be so easy to find, you want to think about effects, implications, and find ways to evaluate what happened. Don't just say, this happened, these people were quick. Talk about why and how. Be critical of all of the points in this. What I wouldn't say is people acted on new evidence. What were the implications? People died. And then you move on. Now that's true, but that has no connection to knowledge as a whole. You're again just describing things that happen. So as you are breaking down the new evidence about things that are trusted quickly, remember that you need to be thinking about the knowledge. Was it good or bad? Why did they do that? And what does that say about knowledge and how people interact with knowledge as a whole? Don't focus on the example, but focus on the knowledge that they were trusting. Like I said, I'm going to have a bunch of videos this week all on every single title. I'm not going to get that much sleep. That's why I'm drinking my coffee here. Also, check out Fiverr. I will grade your paper. I will tear it apart. There's multiple options there. I can grade it in just a couple of hours if you hit me up there. Check out tokmasterclass.com. You can use the code YouTube subscribers to save some serious money. I want to help you out. And hit me up, get an A in TOK.com, so that's free stuff for the organizers. I hope that TOK sucks a little bit less than it did. May 24, you guys got this. Bye.